Welcome back to For the Mamas Collective Podcast, a space where we believe in the power of connection and shared experiences.
Where you can come as you are and take what you need. Hi, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Jaleesa. We're so excited to have you back for episode 5. Can you believe we made it this far already, Danielle?
I know. I was coming upstairs to record, and Trey was like, "What's this, episode 4?" I said, "No, this is 5. Pay attention, keep up.
Right.
We're rolling." But
Big
time
5.
flies, right? When we're building a dream,
Yeah.
and we say it every week, but this podcast has been such a labor of love for the both of us.
Yes.
And just because as moms, we know again how much connection, community, and a space to feel seen and heard really matter.
Exactly. And y'all know what it is. For the Mamas Collective is all about creating that space, a warm, welcoming environment where moms from all walks of life can come together, share their stories, explore the highs and lows, and celebrate this wild, crazy journey of motherhood and parenthood. So, shout out to parents, caregivers, mothers, everybody. Come join us.
Yes. And if you've been with us since the beginning, thank you for rocking with us. And if you're new, welcome to the conversation. You picked a great episode to start with because today's topic is all about community.
That is right. We diving into finding support, what we want from others, what others might need from us in return. But before we get in all of that, let's kick things off with our rose and thorn for the week.
All right, Jaleesa, you're up first. What was your rose and thorn this week?
Uh-oh. Okay, I'm going first this time. Okay, so my rose this week is that I'm still going strong with moving my body and getting in some good movement. I am halfway through a 30-day yoga challenge. I always do this challenge to bring me back. When I fall off, I do my 30-day yoga challenge. It gets me excited to do something, and it makes me feel like I can go a little further. I feel
Mm.
motivated. So that's been a rose that I've been able to do that every day, finding that time. And I'm almost done with dry January. So I feel really proud of myself for that. I don't drink that much anyway, but it's just something about experiencing dedication and commitment to myself that's been feeling pretty good. Now, my thorn, my many thorns. This was a week.
Mm.
This was a week. And I mean, there are so many thorns. I'd rather not unravel. I want if I pull on that thread, we'll be here forever. So so on my, reflecting and getting ready to do this podcast, I just was like, okay, so what was it um that that was really what's the root? And for me, it was just a lot of things happening that created a felt sense of disappointment, frustration,
Mm.
impatience, heavy on the lack of control. And that just really it tested me. It tested a lot of me.
Mm.
And so I don't know if I showed up my best self this week, but I matched the week's energy. I'll say that.
Ooh,
How about you?
girl. Okay, so I feel you on that, and I'm going to start with this because I actually had 3 girlfriends reach out this week and just like, "Hey, how
Mm,
are you?" And I needed that.
mm,
So I'll start with my thorns. The kids were out of school Monday through Thursday. Needless to say,
yeah.
mine didn't make it to school on Friday because why? What are we doing? It's
Right.
pointless. He's already drove me crazy.
Right.
Um, the our foster pup, she ate erasers. She ate trying to
Oh.
get like scraps. An eraser fell and she ate it, and then she got sick. So the middle of the night, she's throwing up on the bedroom carpet.
Mm.
Yeah, and that was one day, and then the next day she ate a baby book. We don't even know when or how, but she shredded that.
Wow.
And then this morning I woke up to scratching, and I'm like, who is scratching? And it's her, and she's locked in Chase's room.
Oh.
Because she can push the door open, but she can't get out, and she
Mm.
chewed up one of his workbooks. So
Oh.
yeah, and that's just like the half of my thorn. So I'll stop there, but it was just a lot all week long and too much. Roses. So I can end on a positive note because I need
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Um So you probably saw on Facebook, but
I did.
yes, Ari Kari is popping up for Carter's. So we found her on the website. Super
Yes.
exciting to see that smile. Um, and she killed a shoot she had this week for Bright Starts. For the
Nice.
she was booked to do like a booster seat shoot with them, which went
Mhm.
really well. And then they asked us to hang around and they wanted us to do some toys that they had scheduled for a little later that afternoon. So we hung around and she got to even do an additional
Wow.
shoot, which is fun. It's always just so nice being on set with her. So enjoyed that. And the other two, like I said, two or three of my girlfriends reached out, but one we were able to connect, and now we have like a standing play date, right? So I think that's kind of going to feed
Mm.
into our topic today, which is beautiful. But it was nice just to have that on a Friday morning, and then I met up with another girlfriend last night, and it was just the two of us sitting in the house, no
Yeah.
kids, dry January
Yeah.
wear because I did, I didn't even attempt to try it, but
Yeah.
it was needed. Those were needed refreshers and connection,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you brought up connecting with girlfriends because I think this week was a little bit about that too for me, but just, via messaging. But it seems like as difficult as it is, as many thorns as we can experience, the universe, the higher power, God, whatever you want to say, it brings you what you need. As much as you
yes.
see the stuff you don't, and you're like, I don't want all of this. But then something is happening, even if it's for someone else, and you get an opportunity to show up in some good energy. And that, it neutralizes it a little bit. So
Yes.
it's been nice to see how the topics just kind of it's that magnetism, right? You're throwing something out there into the world and it's coming back at you and you get to experience it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So now that we've shared our roses and thorns, we'll leave those
Yeah.
in last week. Let's get into today's topic, community.
Okay, cool. So, when we say community, I believe we're talking about the people we lean on and who lean on us. Let's kick this off with a big one. What resources, like, time, knowledge, or emotional support, do you think are most vital for moms to share with their community?
Mm, I love this question because it really highlights how much we have to offer each other. And I don't think we
Mm.
always realize that. But
Mhm.
for me, emotional support is definitely at the top of the list. Just knowing that someone is there.
Yeah.
Because I think just who I am and my personality, I carry a lot for others. So having that
Mhm.
emotional support reciprocated means a lot. And but I also think that like sharing knowledge is powerful. It's people
Yes.
look at me and they're like, "You have 3 kids, you've been through these stages." And sometimes it's beneficial, other times I'm like, "Look, I can't give you, the pretty pictures that you want to see, or you know what I mean, like the pleasant
Right.
stories. Like sometimes it's messy, and
Yeah.
that this is the knowledge I have, but maybe it can help prepare you, right? um
Yeah.
and it's just like we've learned things the hard way, some of us,
Mm.
most of us, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Many
And
of us.
yeah, and so just sharing and passing it on, it can make a huge difference, just even in expectations. I had a
Yeah.
mom reach out to me and say like, why didn't you tell me, 3 was so hard? And I'm like,
Mm.
I'm sorry. Like I know we didn't, this was like a new like relationship that we were cultivating,
Mm.
and like I knew like your child was transitioning into that age. I should have said something, but hey, we're here now. Let me tell you what you're experiencing is, it's not just you. It's not just your
Right.
child. And I sent her some pictures of Chase at that age. And it was like, look, he went to school in mismatched clothes. He went to school with his jacket on backwards. Like it was zipped up in the back, because you have to pick and choose your battles. You know what I mean? So just
Yes.
that knowledge, bringing comfort to others, that like, whatever
Mhm.
yours looks like, somebody else is going through it in their own, form or fashion.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to speak to something you said where you were like, I'm sorry, I should have, given you a warning, but there's no way for one mother to warn another. Your kid is going to show up differently than
Yeah.
mine. And for me, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to give any unsolicited advice. Or I'm like, I don't want to be the Miranda of the group. So those of us in our age bracket that watch Sex in the City, at some point in that series, Miranda got a little jaded about marriage and life and all of that. And sometimes motherhood makes me go, "Hey, are you sure you wanna do that?" So, I try not to if you don't ask me, I might not reach out, or how I lead is like, "This is I'm having a time."
Mhm.
To 3, I'm like, "Hey, why," sometimes it's like, "Well, my 3-year-old is off the chain." So, get ready for that. But I think it's something to just being the space where someone could be like, "Girl, why you ain't tell me 3 was like this?" To me, that means, "Oh, you feel comfortable enough with me. We could have this conversation. Cool. Here we go. Let's do it. And I'm gonna give you the real deal." So I love that idea of sharing knowledge. Of so much of what we do is that collective sharing. It's like, well, what about this, what kind of medicine do you use, what do y'all do for that? That's just so important to me. And for I think I would add time to that list.
Mm.
Like even small gestures. I don't have I ha I don't think I've ever leaned on a friend to be like, "Can you watch my kids while I run an errand," or whatever? But to me, that would be a family ask. That would be some and that's still very, very hard for me to
Mhm.
do. But for me, I have, the blessing of having family very close, where I could be like, "Hey, I need a little bit. I need a minute. Can
Yeah.
you take them?" I was just telling my best friend Courtney that, I'm like, man, I really appreciate my mom because she'll take them rain, sleet, storm, sick, whatever. And I'm like, they sick. She's like, whatever, bring them on. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Because they got to get out the house. They got to go today. So for me, being able to have a place where I could do that, that means a lot. Or even making time to hang out. I don't know if I'm a play date type of mom, but I do appreciate going to birthday parties and making time and having time space for the kids to hang out. Or
Yeah.
for me, I have a lot of cousins, and so it's our play dates are mostly like cousin dates. And so I like the idea of making time for the kids because it kind of means I get a little time to chit chat with somebody else too.
Yeah. Yep. And I think all of that is, I mean, it's just so accurate, so true. And let's be real, like as moms, we can sometimes feel isolated, right? So
Yes.
it very much feels like my toddler is
Yeah.
wild and crazy, or like
Yeah.
my 5-year-old is doing this, and it that happens. So what do we do about that?
Right.
How do we kind of strategize, right? What can
Yeah.
we do? Um, what resources do we have? Where do we tap in? How do we get this together? And
Right.
for me personally, I found that taking the first step is the hardest part. And this
Mm.
isn't like in regards to building relationships or building, community. I've been
Mhm.
very fortunate in that some of the relationships that I have now have it was the other person who did it, but
Yeah.
you also have to be in a space to receive it, right? Because
Yeah.
right, I know us, and
Yeah.
we're not always in that space. Um,
Right.
but
So wait, Danielle, so tell them about that because with you moving to Atlanta and me knowing you are very similar to me and like I ain't really trying to
mm,
extend myself and be open like that, you kind of had to change
yeah,
a little bit and be open to that. So tell them a little bit about that.
yeah. So I think for me, it started when I was actually living in Texas before we got back to Atlanta.
Mm.
But either
Mhm.
way, no support system in Texas or Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it was Holy Spirit. So not to get crazy deep, but was having a really tough weekend where I was supposed to come like pick the kids up from the airport. Their father was supposed to put them on a flight. And I didn't find out until after the flight departed that he never even took them to the airport. And
Wow.
so he wasn't comfortable with them flying alone. And instead of having that conversation, right, he just chose
Mhm.
to not say anything. Um,
Mm.
and so I had to book a ticket to go get them because I needed them back by a certain date. So now I'm
Yeah.
like frustrated. I found a ticket to get out. I found us tickets to get back. But like I was booking the ticket on the way to the airport. It was like that. So just the
Wow.
stress of it all. And Holy Spirit, there was just a little whisper, and it said, "You're going to meet
Mm.
somebody on the plane. Be nice."
Mhm.
Period.
Mm. I got
I
chills because whoo, I got
right.
to be nice.
I had no idea what to expect because in my head I'm already chewing that apart. I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I already don't like people talking to me on the plane because why are we talking? Like, I don't like flying. It gives me anxiety in and of itself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I heard that and I immediately like shut it down, threw it in the back of my head, whatever. Get on the plane. It was a connecting flight. So,
Mm.
and because it was a little late, they didn't
Mhm.
let them deplane. They just kind of boarded us and we took right off. So the plane was
Wow.
halfway full already. And I saw a seat. There was a mother on the aisle, a son in the middle, and an open window. I like the
Mhm.
window seat.
Mhm.
So I was like, do you mind if I squeeze past? Because I know a lot of people don't like to sit next to kids. I'm like, I'll sit next to this little boy. He looks sweet. He talked the entire time. He told me all about his granny's house and what he had done that summer. And his mom just kept apologizing. And I'm like, it's okay. He reminds me of my son. He's this age. I can't even, the story. For the rest of
Yeah.
y'all, if you're listening, Shayla, you know the story. But
Yeah.
her son's middle name was my son's first name. She was, I hope she doesn't mind me sharing, but picking up her son from being away with his father's family for the summer. And it was just like our stories were so
Wow.
similar and we didn't
Yeah.
exchange phone numbers, but we connected on Instagram. And I'm not even big on
Mm.
Instagram. She told me she's a realtor. I
Right.
said, when we move back to Atlanta, I'm going to hit you up. And I did.
Mhm.
She helped us find this house. She
Wow.
represented us. And we've been friends ever since. But like, she was the first sense of community that I had. And she'll hit me up all the time. Like, hey, you
Yeah.
good? You need a break? You can bring the kids over. And she'll take any
Oh.
and all of them. Like, she's so sweet. But like, that's where it started. And I just had to be ready. But yeah,
Some
so it kind of,
divine alignment.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just that simple. So when I say, be ready to receive, and then we met another young lady and her daughter when we were out to
Mhm.
breakfast a few
Yeah.
weeks ago at this point, and she's like 2 weeks older than Ari. Her nickname is Ari, so that's kind of how the connection happened because she thought we were calling her. And I
Uh-huh.
just decided to strike up a conversation with her mother. I'm like, hey, are you guys local to the area? And she told me yes. She lives across the street
Mm.
from me. Like, we were 10
Wow.
minutes from home, but she literally lives across the street. And she's a stay at
Wow.
home mom, and we have these daughters. And so now she's in my circle. Like, we've done multiple play
Mhm.
dates already, but like, it took for me to take that first step,
Yeah.
and to kind of even deepen the story. But like, she's still trying to build her community here because she
Right.
moved from another country, and so it's huge, but it's necessary. And I think
Oh yeah.
that's the hard part. You never know, what somebody needs from you or what you
Mhm.
need from somebody. So
Mhm.
just being receptive and being willing to step out of maybe your comfort zone, you might be
Yeah.
surprised, how connections can form and how that really just is the basis for starting to build the community around you.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I love that. I just love the divine intervention of it all. And I couldn't see it happening to anybody else. It has to be you. Yeah. Yes, we are Aries, but very different in that sense. I think, but again, right, like you said last week, where you lead with your generosity, and so I think you just have a
Mm,
light about you that's going to create that sense of openness.
yeah.
And when you respond to it and you're open with it, it flows for you, because that's something, looking on the outside. I always joke, I'm like, I've had 3 friends for 20 years. So for me, I'm like, wow, Danielle getting out here. Whoo, couldn't be me, child. If I move, I got to move to live somewhere. I know somebody. I'm like, if I move, I'm going over there by Danielle. I don't. That's not really a thing for me. So I do love that. Even taking Ari on those shoots and stuff, right? Like, I think you have a willingness to put yourself out there in a way
Yeah.
that produces the outcomes that you need, and the work, the labor is just being open. Well, not let me not say just, because that is a lot of
It's a
labor. That is
lot. It
work.
it took a shift in my mindset. Like, if I want
Yeah.
this, I'm going to have to do things to get it because
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I said in high school, like I'm not making friends after this. Like if you're not my friend by the time I leave high school, we won't be friends. And then I like prided
Mm.
myself on the fact that I had only made like one friend after that, and we worked together
Mhm.
for 3 years. But
Yeah.
then I was like, oh God, I'm here and I'm lonely. And like how do you
Right.
change that? Because yeah, we can talk on the phone,
Right.
we can FaceTime, but I don't have anybody here. And
Right.
so that's hard. I think sometimes we get in our own way.
Mhm. We can get in our own way, right? And sometimes we're feeling that isolation, but while we steady building the walls up, we like, I feel isolated. Well, and you building up them walls.
Yeah.
So yeah, your feeling is real and there's something that can change. And even if it's just in mindset. I like that. And that's how you create your space, right?
Hmm.
That's the foundation of that. So in that experience, then what advice do you think we can pull from that to offer to new moms, like who for women and parents alike who are trying to build their support network, even just people, because there are single people who experience that isolation and it
Yeah.
just it feels very difficult to connect and make friends and have a community. So for anyone experiencing that, do you have any points you want to like offer out there to the world?
I think my biggest advice is to start small, be
Mhm.
intentional. It can be as simple as finding one or two people that you feel comfortable with and really just focusing on deepening those connections, those
Yeah.
relationships. And because it's like it's less about having a huge circle, because I mean, even like family gatherings, like whatever you do, when there's more people, it gets more complicated,
Mhm.
right? Find
Mhm.
you a
Mhm.
couple good people that you can count on, that you're comfortable with, and
Yeah.
go from there.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I mean, I'm up to 4 now, but
Uh-huh.
2 of the 4 I got from one connection, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's well, no, 2 of the 4 I got from the 3rd connection, if that makes sense. Like 3 of them were
Yeah.
all they knew each other before I knew each other, but now the 3 of
Yeah.
us have our own individual connections, and they're
Yeah.
special. But
Yeah.
yeah, just that core group. How about you? Any advice?
Um, you know, I guess I'm gonna give y'all a little story time for a second. And I think my advice is gonna wrap into that. That's how I'm gonna have to lay it out. For me, I lean so heavily on my family connections that yes, that's my personality to just be a little more like, I'm good. But also the way I grew up, my cousins were my friends.
Right.
And that grew up with us. My so even though they're 6 years older than me, I was the baby for a while. Um, but they're my friends. They're the ones I went out with. We hung out, we party, we this, we that. And now in motherhood, we're trying to find that space as well. And so for me, it feels sometimes hard to make friendships and want to be open
Hmm.
because I'm like, well, I just want them built in. I just want the built. I want it to be as easy as it's been my whole life, right?
Yeah.
Like and my cousins, like we luckily we get along, but like I said, I was the baby, so yeah, hey, they like me. I I was a little spoiled in that way. Like I'm gonna get the attention. I'm gonna get the connection. It's easy. It comes to me easily, right? Before I set out the mantra, it was already in existence. And so making friends, like if y'all know that first episode, see Danielle made it happen for herself, y'all. 14-year-old Danielle knew one day she was gonna need me around, so she said, let me get this one, let me
Yep.
get this, just
Snatch
this
up this
one.
friend in high school before I cut off my
Yes.
friendship.
Yeah. Yeah, like, oh, this I'm capping at this. But and that's something that's been inspirational to me. I think when I do try to hold, I'm like, okay, me and Danielle are very similar. She's doing it. I can do it. I can. I don't want to, but I can do it. Having been friends with Courtney since sixth grade, it's like everyone in my life has been in my life a long
Yeah.
time. And so for me, that feels a little different. I feel like I've had the support that I've needed for a while. And I think for me, what changed is so to give y'all a little black backstory. Rob has like 10 best friends, and we've been together about 13 years. I ain't met none of them women until 2022. Shame on him and his friends for keeping us apart. But and in that year, talk about divine alignment and intervention. In that year, I had a goal for myself to make more connections, to make more female connections, and to step out of my comfort zone. Honestly, because COVID, I it was hard. It was so hard for me, and I'm an introvert. I like being left alone. And I was starting to go stir crazy. I mean, because there's only so much the same three people you've known your whole life and the same cousins you didn't know your whole. There's only so much conversation we have.
Yeah.
We all talking about the same thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love y'all. And something feels like it's missing. I don't feel like I'm growing because everybody know me.
Mhm.
And so it's about me. It wasn't about anybody else. And so that's when I was like, I need to. And then Robert too, the difficulty with Robert and just being like, I feel like I am suffering, and I don't want to complain to everyone. So that's what it was. I mean, it was the anxiety was so deep. I was like, this is too much.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, I can't keep it to myself. I can't isolate myself. And so what does that look like? And so, one of the couples, they got married in 2022. And so we weren't gonna go. Well, we were wanting to go, but then we were like, what does that look like? And so back to community again. My mom was like, I will keep Robert. I will keep the kids. We'll coordinate. I don't really, COVID's still fresh. I don't want my grandbabies out there. So I'm like, all right, cool. So let's do it. Let's get to it. And so when we went out there, I mean, the fact that, again, divine alignment, the fact that Rob was like, oh, what you think? I'm like, I think you should go because this is one of your best friends. And he's like, I really, really, really want to go. And it was really more of that health concern.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? And he like, I don't have no health concerns. And I'm just trying to be considerate of you because you still wearing a mask. And I was like, hey, I got to get out of here. I'll take my chances. I think we'll be okay. I got to step out on faith. Got to
Mhm.
be open to it.
Yeah.
What's going to come from this? And then what me and one of the girls, shout out to Amanda, we connected early on. I think we saw them in the airport, and they were like, we were all on the same flight. And so me and her just kept catching each other. And so that first night, I don't know. Me and her was, I don't know. Somebody was looking crazy. We looked at each other. She like, what's up? And I was like, you know what? I like you. I like this one. And so then we just it took off from there. And we've created a really close bond ever since. So if y'all see me outside, it's usually with them. Um, but what's so special about it is that we are the wives of Rob's core friend group.
Mhm.
And so there's just so much depth and richness to the men's relationships that kind of bond us together, and it gets us to building our own kind of connection. And that might be it. Now that might be enough for me. Maybe got a little extra space. I'm like you. I'm trying to find where I'm gonna cap this thing at, but maybe I won't. Maybe I need to stay open. But for me, just kind of to summarize that soliloquy, I just it's hard to transition from the things that and
Mhm.
what you're really comfortable with, and taking that leap of faith. And so I'm going to agree with you. Start small, be intentional, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
Or you know what, be afraid to ask for help, know that you're scared, and do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's it right there. Do it anyway. It's all scary,
Mhm.
but some of that scary stuff has some really beautiful outcomes.
Yeah.
So let's do it anyway if you can. You know, people want to support you, uh and they want to be there for you. So where you can, lean into that.
Right.
But I don't know. I talking about that feels really good, but for me as a clinician, I've seen a lot of people who just don't even have any of that. Just don't have any of that space. So, I don't know if I can advise a new mom who just doesn't have any anything.
Hmm.
Doesn't even, maybe you don't even have the belief in yourself that you can change your mindset, or that you have some significant trauma. Your external circumstances are hard. You don't have family. You don't have a friend group around you. You don't have the resources or the skill to do that. I think if that's you, if you're feeling like that, start internal. Start with yourself. If you're a new mom and it's feeling like that, start with therapy.
Yeah.
Get you some therapy. Get you that person who's going to be there for you unconditionally, with no judgment, and be open to receiving that. And I think maybe you could speak to that a little bit more too, Danielle. Like stepping out and going into groups, like resources. Maybe we're stepping into a conversation about how can a person find the resourcing that they need, even if it's not just a mom group, a play day group, a friend group, but things that people can do that allow them to start to shift in their mindset.
Yeah. I think to everything you just said, starting with yourself, right? Number one, um,
Yeah.
if you don't know how you need help or support,
Mm-hmm.
nobody else is ever going to be able to help you. So we have to identify that, and if it's starting with
Mm.
therapy, then start there. And you'd be surprised, just how being open and honest with yourself, or with a therapist,
Yeah.
can lead to suggestions,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
simple steps that you can take to move forward and to really position yourself where you want to be, as far
Yeah.
as resources and things like that. Um, as far as me, I am a I am a product of resources.
Ah,
I
okay.
Everything about my life was resource driven. It's a
Mm.
large part of my success as a teenage mom was
Mhm.
due to
Mhm.
resources, right? There was a parenting program that I attended where I could connect with other moms. Believe it or not, we all went to the same school, most of us.
Mhm.
We didn't talk in school. We didn't. We
Mhm.
knew we were the teen moms of the school, but it allowed us to form a connection outside of that. And
Yeah.
that's really a lot of what we connected on, because again, I
Mm.
wouldn't have chose these women to be my friends, um,
Yeah.
but we connected on our day-to-day struggles. And
Yeah.
so, I say that because yes, sharing can be scary, but if we just allow ourselves the opportunity to share our stories and talk
Mhm.
more, you
Mhm.
would be surprised how much, it's word of mouth. That's what I
Yeah.
have. Like, if you're listening to this and this might not resonate with you, but you know somebody who it will, share it.
Yeah.
That's how it
Yes.
goes. So when I see things, when I hear of things, I'm like, you know what? Had I known this when my baby was 2 months old, I would have loved if somebody could have shared it with me. So now I've
Yeah.
stored that and I'm mindful of it. So when I see people with little ones, or if I know, if they even make a comment about something, I'm not afraid. Again, I'm not going to offer unsolicited advice, but
Mhm.
I will share what works for me or what I've
Mhm.
seen, or offer suggestions, right? Like,
Mhm.
take what you want with it, but there's so much out there. I mean, it's how many of us get on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
They
Right.
got the TikTok doctor, the TikTok dietitian, the TikTok,
Yeah.
like, TikTok is everybody's life. I'm
Mhm.
not on TikTok,
Mm.
but I got some friends who are.
Yeah.
And if they see something that they think could help me, they're going to send it over,
Oh
which
yeah.
is nice. But it's just like, I wouldn't see that otherwise. And so it's
Mm.
like, you just never know what or how the resource will be packaged. Let me
Mhm.
say that, right? Like,
Mhm.
what it
Mhm.
might feel like common sense to you, or it
Yeah.
might be like oh, that's a nice idea, but I don't need that. It doesn't apply to me. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean that you can't like take note of that flyer or share that event or share that group. If you know that it's going on, speak on it.
Yeah.
Because that's how we get things out. It's,
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like I have no idea what all the resources available in my neighborhood are, but I know
Yeah.
there's some moms who do a really good job keeping up at it. And I know if I just, reach out to them like, "Hey, what's going on this weekend in the village?" They can tell me. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it might be
Yeah.
something that I need. Um and so the same just goes, I don't this is so hard because it's like,
It
yeah, you
is.
you need the resources, but I guess just my answer is like, you don't know what that might be, and it's okay not to know. Just
Yeah.
ask. Like,
Yep.
I didn't know I needed the parenting group,
Mhm.
but somehow they had a connection with, I don't even know who their connection was. They reached out to me,
Mm.
and that's how it goes. So it's just like, it you might not know you need it, but don't sweep it under the rug. Don't be
Yeah.
offended if somebody offers you something,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right.
do your due diligence and see it through. You can go to one meeting, you can attend one event, you can sit in the back in the corner. It could not be for you and you could never show up again, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to say anything to anybody, but it could also change your life.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
I think just getting out the way and not being afraid. And there's so much. Some of them are free, some of them you have to invest. I
Mhm.
I have made it a point to invest in myself where I can.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I need this for me. It's important. I'm willing to pay for it for my peace of mind. And so, that a long way to
For
say
sure.
the resources are everywhere, and they may be hiding in plain sight.
Yeah. And they're within,
Yep.
right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
like you said, being able to put something out there to share with another, or being able to receive what is being shared out there, right? Not being afraid to offend someone by giving them a resource, and not being offended by being the person that might need to receive it as
Yeah.
well. So right, it's an internal external exchange. And if we're constantly doing that, then like you said, some things can happen, that can change our lives. And I think that's the space the podcast is meant to create, right?
Yeah.
This is meant to be a resource. Our experience is meant to be shared so that, other moms, other people can feel seen and heard. And it's just a way of us to for us to give back, and to pour into one another, and to pour into ourselves. Because I think there's a lot that when you're holding it in, being in this podcast space at least, it allows for things that to really come out that maybe you wouldn't have shared, or
Yeah.
life is just happening and so it's moving around too fast. But to be able to sit in it and reflect on it. And I've gotten so much feedback about how relatable
Mm-hmm.
our episodes so far have been, and we're just sharing.
Yeah.
All we doing is sharing what we know,
Yeah. And I
you
mean,
know?
how many times do we do something and we're like, well, in hindsight, I would have done, like X, Y, or
Mhm.
Z, or I could have done, and it's just like, why? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never been the person where it's like, oh, you said that's hot. Let me touch it and see so I can burn my hand. Like, no,
Yeah.
no, no. You said it's hot. I got you. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Some people do need that experience, and that's great. But like,
Mhm.
if we can learn from each other and really lean on each other, if that became an expectation that we had, right?
Yeah.
Like, from
Yeah.
mother to mother, caregiver to caregiver, partner to partner, like whatever that looks like, if we could challenge ourselves to be more forthcoming in that, I think we would all feel a greater
Yeah.
sense of community. Um and it's not, I think, okay, I don't want to get off track here,
Yeah.
because we talk about community, and you have your cousins, you had that built-in community. My
Yeah.
family has I have a large family,
Yeah.
but my immediate family was really the core of that unit. So not
Yeah.
having anybody here was difficult. we were raised on like, it takes a village, right? The village
Mhm.
was the
Mhm.
family for real.
Right, right.
Which is not so much today. And I think that's where all of the mom friends that I have now, that's where we're
Mhm.
connecting. We're all on the same boat. Like, hey,
Yeah.
we're out here with no family or limited family, and we feel alone, and we align there. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you're not. But maybe you can't call on, your mother or your grandmother to help with the kids, but you do know that, like, any kid that's with me is always going to be good. And if you need help,
Yeah.
don't be ashamed to ask for it. Which
Right.
is why, I mean, we offer it to each other. We're like, hey, if
Yeah.
you ever want to get out, let me know. I'll keep the kids.
Yeah.
And it's free of charge, because sometimes, it's like, you to walk out the door, you have to
Yeah.
spend $150 on a
Right.
babysitter,
Right.
and you have to spend an hour of your time. You have to, if they don't drive, you got to pick them up, and then when you get home, you got to drop them off. And like,
Mhm.
it can be expensive just to go out, be with yourself, or,
Right.
or be with your partner, or date your spouse, like any of that. And so it's like, but we're all here. If I got two
Yeah.
kids in the house, adding two more is not going to kill my Friday or Saturday
Right.
night. Bring
Right.
them on, right?
Right.
And that's what I think it is. I know for me, that would be something that's very easy. For you, maybe you wouldn't do that. You might, you might take some cousins' kids or something like that. You took
Yeah.
MJ.
I
Um,
did. I had my
yeah,
MJ. Yeah,
you
I
took
sure
MJ, but
did.
it can be the little things, and
Yeah.
they surprise you.
Yeah. And that feels so essential, right? I think we're getting down to the brass tacks of it. And like redefining the village. That's
Yeah.
where we are, right? This is the generation that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And community is going to have to be bigger than blood, than
Yeah.
family, because that's not accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
And so we, redefining the village to increase your accessibility to more balance, right? To
Yeah.
life. And that's maybe a little bit of that advice, and you're speaking to some things that maybe moms can be talking about, or caregivers can be talking about and discussing openly. And so I think we maybe have started that a bit here today, is like encouraging those conversations to be had and making it okay to be like, hey, I'm willing to stretch and pull and give and receive, but essentially it's to build a redefined village
Mm-hmm.
and community. So I mean, and we spoke to it a little bit, but any kind of lasting summarizing kind of points. What do you think are the essential topics that we want to hone in for moms to take out and pull out of this?
I think I would want to say, don't let fear hold you back.
Yeah.
Don't, I think that's where it starts. It can be fear, and it can be fear of anything. I think mom guilt is a big one, right? Like judgment.
Yes.
And again, I think like
Yes.
fear kind of plays into all of this. But like, yeah, some people don't want to share. Like, it could be postpartum depression. It could be,
Yes.
that your child might be having delays, or it could
Mhm.
be so
Mhm.
many things. And it's not easy sharing. But
Mhm.
I think if we take the stigma out of it, um, it will the narrative will start to change, and we'll kind of see that going forward. And I want to say this,
Yeah.
because you just made a comment that made me think of it. But 2 weeks ago now, maybe it was last week, I don't know. But Trey
Mhm.
and I were watching an episode of Diary of a CEO, the podcast. Do
Mm.
you watch that with Steven?
I've seen a little bit of it, but I haven't really dove into
Yeah,
it.
I mean, he had some great episodes, and he had Trevor Noah on as a guest. So it was just like,
Mm.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
if y'all can go back and look, I need somebody to plug us, but I will plug that episode,
Yeah.
because it started essentially this conversation that we're having now, which was already, this was planned out how long ago?
Right.
Um, but it started that with Trey and I, and Trevor Noah made a comment about how women, because we're emotional, it can be easier for us to connect. Again, that's not every woman. We still
Mm.
have our challenges. We still have, this
Our
front we want to
barriers.
present, and
Yeah.
what we want people to think of us. And it's hard to be vulnerable and seen as imperfect.
Yeah.
But in general, we do better than men. And the
Right.
problem that where we do well or where we succeed though is that like we will get together and just like sit in the house and drink a glass of wine while the kids run crazy, or you know what
Yeah.
I mean, just kind of be in each other's presence. And
Yeah.
men have a difficult time connecting because they
Mhm.
always need that third thing, right? So if they're connecting, it's like, hey,
Mm.
do you want to go watch the game? And then
Mm.
the hangout becomes about the game or the sport, or now you're fishing, but it's about like, what are you catching, how's the water, like, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
like it's
Yeah.
always, do you want to go play basketball? Now you're just hooping the whole time, there's no connection.
Yeah.
And he was just saying that like as men we have to learn how to just chill. You have to just,
Mm.
do you want to come over and chill, right? Do you want to meet up and chill? There is no third thing.
Yeah.
And so just kind of driving that conversation, but like, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, y'all can come to my house. It's a mess. We have 2 dogs and 3 kids, and it's a lot, and I just haven't gotten around to cleaning it. And they'll be
Mhm.
like, your house is not dirty. Listen,
Yeah.
don't mistake these toys that I threw in a bucket,
Right.
and the dog hair I attempted to sweep up as clean, because you
Right.
can see there's dust everywhere. There's
Yeah.
this, there's that, and it's like my upstairs is overflowing with laundry, whatever that looks like, but it's just like nobody cares.
Right. At
Like
the end of the day, in the grand scheme, we don't care. We
no,
think we care, but we really not when I just need to sit here and girl, I don't care. Is the
right.
couch clean enough for me to sit on it? Cool.
And there you have
Okay.
it. And so, it's just like, don't let things like that hold you back. Don't,
Yeah.
don't. I started hosting, some play dates, just here and there.
Mhm.
And sometimes my house is not in the best shape, and I'm
Yeah.
always gonna preface it like, oh, please excuse our mess, just because like I feel
Yeah.
bad. But I also know that I'm in a place where I'm not gonna wreck my brain to make sure that everything's in
Mhm.
tip top shape before somebody walks through the door. This is life. I'm living, I'm
That's right.
human, I'm not perfect. I got the same number of hours in a day that you have, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like this is just what you're going to get, but that does not impact, like that has no direct effect on the conversation that we have. You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
still unwind with each other and share
Yeah.
stories, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I'm glad that I can get myself out the way enough for that. But
Mm.
I encourage us all to do that a little more. And it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
expensive. Go to the park, go for a walk. We do so many mom walks, and like
Yeah.
there's free things you can do.
Right.
Just do it.
Right. So right, you speaking to that idea of just being vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? Being vulnerable with your enough with yourself to then go out and be vulnerable with another,
Mhm.
and in which hopefully makes others feel safe to do the same.
Yep.
And as you build that, the messiness doesn't matter as much. The hey, I don't really have the funds for that, but like we go on this walk, like where you are and your socioeconomic status doesn't matter because you're resonating and connecting on the vulnerability of it all, right?
Hmm.
On just the life, the desire and the need to connect.
Yeah. And that was Trey's point to the podcast, where it's like he hates small talk. He's
Hmm.
just not like, that is one of his least favorite things. He doesn't mind being vulnerable, but it's not easy for men to be
Yeah.
vulnerable with each other. And so it's
Right.
like, well, how do you get another man? So we started talking about, how do you get another man to open up? And I'm like, you might not, but I can guarantee you, if you start opening up, one
Yep.
day they will reciprocate. and
Yep.
and that will have a lasting impact on them, to where they'll do it with another man, right? And
Yep.
now we've taken the that I don't know what you would call it, the stigma away from like
Mhm.
men not
Mhm.
having these connections. Y'all, it doesn't have
Mhm.
to be, we don't have to talk about sports every time you come over here, right? Like
Right.
what, and we don't have to talk about the kids every time you come over here. What's going on with
Right.
you? How are you?
Right.
Because we
How are
look at each other and be
you?
like, mama, how are you? All kids
Right.
aside,
Right.
how are
Like,
you?
girl.
Right. Like, how do we get men there? But again, the
Yeah.
answer to that, I think, just goes to everybody.
Right.
You just,
Which is be yourself. Do it you for
yep,
you. Do it and show it.
start with yourself.
Start.
Be
Yep.
the example you want to see, and you'll be surprised
Yeah.
how people start to open up. Some people just have to get comfortable. you know?
Yeah, and it takes time, being okay with the time that it's going to take.
Mhm.
And I saw something it was, just an illustration on social media, but um, it said, one person's 80% is different than your 20%. You're looking like, oh, their roots are deep. The illustration is just like two women sitting, and, one has really deep roots and one's roots are just starting. That's
Mhm.
20%, that's 80%, but we're at different levels. Doesn't mean we can't sit here together.
Yeah.
It just means that, it's going to take some time. And the more I think we share and have that openness with one another, and make it okay to be who we are and just show up as your whole self as
Yep.
best you can. That's pretty much what it's going to take, is for everyone to, you know believe and trust that they're good enough,
Yeah.
that they deserve what they're seeking from the world. The more you believe it for yourself, the more likely it is going to come to you.
Yep.
And so, seeing yourself in that light, I think that kind of makes the difference there. And like you said, just being that change, kind of shifting, modeling it. If something isn't happening in your life or for another person, model what you want. Fake it till
Yeah.
you make it, whatever
But
whatever
and
little idiom you want.
right. I mean, fake it till you make it, because you, again, you might not be comfortable doing it, but if you want to see the change, you're gonna have to put in the work. But
Mhm.
you hit on a key point. You have to show up as yourself. There's
Yeah.
so many of us, again, so many of us mamas showing
Mhm.
up trying to look the part, or not
Right.
look frazzled, or appear put together. And it's like,
Right.
you don't have to.
You don't have
Girl,
to.
come as you are,
Right.
period.
Take what you
Take
need.
what you
Okay.
need. And it's just like, and it, because that can be draining when you allow somebody to meet you and engage with you and connect with you, when you have this facade that you have it all together. That's
Yeah.
misleading. And now you wonder why. It's like, well, why can't we get deep? Because you're not being real. Be
Right.
yourself. Let that hair down. Talk about the
Mhm.
good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent,
Yeah.
and see how the connections and the community you build just feel more meaningful. It
Yeah.
gives you something that you want to hold on to, a sense of pride, and you know that these individuals aren't with you, like, like they're not in your circle, they're not inviting you to hang out because they think you've got it together, but because they really
Right.
know who you are, and
Right.
they know that you would enjoy this experience, or that you need this break, or like whatever it may be, but they know
Right.
you.
Right.
So I like that when you said
Yeah.
that.
Well, I like what you just said. Well, and I think, keep going, keep flowing with that. So what do you think are some takeaways? What can we do? We've been chatting away for a minute now. So what are some
Mhm.
takeaways for the week?
Some takeaways. So I think we can invite our listeners to ask
Mhm.
themselves two questions this week,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
What do you want from your community,
Mhm.
and what can you give to the people in your life? So just
Mm.
sit with that, right? What do you have to offer, and what would you hope to receive?
I like that. And maybe don't forget this either. Take one step this week to create or strengthen those
Mm,
connections. And maybe the step is actually answering those questions, like writing them down,
yeah.
not just letting them fumble around and toss around in your head, but really reflect on the questions and write them down. And maybe that'll have you, reaching out to a friend that you haven't talked to in a while, or joining a mom's group in your area, or even just inviting the sensation of an interest in those things,
Mm-hmm.
like bringing on the energy of what would that feel like for me to really embody and embrace the idea of being vulnerable and open, not only with others but with myself.
Yes. Yep. And just remember, right? Like, it's the little things, the little steps. If you keep doing them, if you take enough of them, they lead to big changes. They will. So
Yes.
it's all gonna add up, but we have to
Yeah,
start somewhere.
for sure, for sure. Okay, well, that was a lot. We gave them a lot. All right. Again, we gave you all we got this week, y'all. Them thorns really drove us into this. I think it was necessary for us to have thorny weeks,
Mm-hmm.
individually, so that we could come in and really give a lot into this, pour a lot into this conversation. So, before we go, as always, if you enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to like, subscribe, follow, share it with anybody in your life who might need to hear it. Do all the social media things, please.
Yes, and don't forget, while doing all those social media things, leave a comment.
Yeah,
It
come on,
really
y'all,
helps.
leave a
Yeah,
comment.
leave a
Yeah.
comment. And if you need a safe space, again, like no judgment. No
Yeah, for
judgment.
sure.
Shoot us a DM. If you need to talk it out, if you're looking for resources, I mean, I'm
Yep.
here in Atlanta, but you're in Chicago, Jaleesa.
Yeah,
I'm happy to help where I can.
for
Um,
sure. Same.
that's it. We
Ditto.
got to keep this community growing.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. Here at For the Mamas Collective, our motto is come as you are, take what you need, and ask for what you need so you can take it.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you for tuning in this week, you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.